So hello everyone, myself is Sanket Pavadia and today I am going to presentation on the topic comprehensive exploration of romantic poets. Let's start. This is my personal information. Table of contents. First we discuss what is romanticism, then romantic poets, then conclusion and reference. Let's discuss what is romanticism. And the romanticism does not stem directly from the concept of love, but rather than French word romant, romantic story told in verse. Romanticism focus on emotions and the inner life of the writers and often use autobiographical material to inform the work or even provide a template for it, unlike traditional literature at the time. So romanticism not directly mean to the love, but it's a romantic story, and it's emotions and feeling of a writer that they are used in poetry, and they are unlike the traditional literature. Uh, the romantic poets divided in two categories: first generation and second generation. First generation romantic poets include William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and William Blake. Second generation romantic poet includes Lord Byron, Percy Bishop Shelley, and John Keats. Uh, William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth was born on 7th April 1770 in England, and he was a very famous poet of England, and he was also appointed as a poet laureate, and he celebrate nature as a source of inspiration. Every poet take inspiration from someone. So that times romantic poets, particularly Wordsworth, take inspiration from nature. His poetry emphasizes a simple rural life, making poetry accessible to the common man. So his poetry also accessible to the common man, not just intellectual people. And he also give definition of poetry. As we know, Wordsworth give the definition of poetry: the spontaneous overflow of powerful feeling. It takes uh, yeah, origin from emotions recollected in tranquility. This is the definition of poetry given by Wordsworth, and his famous work are lyrical ballads, daffodils, and the prelude. uh, Samuel Taylor Coleridge. He was also a famous first generation romantic poet. He was born on 21st October 1772 in England. He was a poet, philosopher, and literary critic, and he explored elements in his work like mystical and supernatural elements. He used themes in his work like imagination, spiritual struggle, and romantic mysticism. And his famous work like the Rime of the Ancient Mariner and Kubla Khan. So in the both work we find out some supernatural elements. William Blake. Uh, William Blake was born on 28 November 1757 in London, and he was a poet, painter, and printmaker. And he was also famous for a painter, and his painting is also famous at that time. And he was used in his poetry such as religious symbolism and duality of experience. And he used themes in his poetry like freedom, innocence versus experience, and anti-establishment. His famous work like A Song of Innocence and Experience and The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. These are the famous work of William Blake. So these are the three main first generation romantic poet. Let's discuss the second generation romantic poet. Start with Lord Byron. Lord Byron is a very famous poet of second generation. He was born on 22 January 1788 in London, and he was a scandalous aristocratic poet and Byronic hero. He was also famous for he given his term as a Byronic hero, and he included in his poetry like rebellious passion and melancholic introspection. And he used in his work like love, exile, and heroic individualism. And his famous work such as Child Heroes, Pilgrimage, Don John, The Man Friend, etc. is famous work by Lord Byron. Uh, Percy Bishop Shelley. Uh, uh, Percy Bishop Shelley was also the famous poet of the second generation romantic poet. He was born on 4th August 1792 in England, and he was a radical thinker and lyrical poet. And and he was also famous as a Mad Shelley because his poetry's approach like a ridicule approach. and he used themes in his work like nature's power, human freedom, and anti-establishment ideas. And his famous work like Ozymandias, Ode to the West Wind, and Prometheus Unborn. These are the famous work of Percy Bysshe Shelley's. John Keats. John Keats was a very famous poet of second generation romantic poet, and he was also famous as a young poet of young romantic poet, and he was born on 21st October 1795 in London, and he was a celebrated romantic poet of beauty, and he was a sensuous imagery and immortalizing fleeting moment, and his poetry uh, often reflect the beauty and some sensual imagery, and he used themes like beauty, mortality, and the power of art, and his contribution to development the concept of negative capability, and his famous work like Ode to the Nightingale, Ode on Christian Earl, and he was very famous as a young romantic poet, and his death very young age at the age of 25. And once he write a very famous line, here is a beauty is truth and truth is beauty. Conclusion. Romanticism revolutionized the way we view poetry and the world. A romantic poet emphasized imagination, emotions, and the power of nature, challenging traditional form of literature. Their work continued to inspire us to appreciate beauty, individuality, and the profound connection between humanity and the natural world. Understanding romanticism not only depends our appreciation for literature but also enrich our understanding of the human experience. As we know, the some romantic poets give uh, their emphasis on emotions and imaginations, and they are highly rooted to write in the nature. And this is my references. And thank you.